Commander Thoric stared at his control panels in disbelief. Every system on his flagship was reporting errors. The targeting computers couldn't lock onto the human ships. The engines were running at only 60% power. Even the basic communications array was flickering in and out. "Report," he roared at his crew. "Sir, something is interfering with our quantum processors. The humans have created some kind of field that disrupts our technology." The sensor officer's voice shook. "I've never seen anything like this." Thoric slammed his fist on the armrest. The Valdran Empire had conquered 47 species. They had fought wars across 300 star systems.
Never, not once, had they encountered technology they couldn't understand. They're primitives.
They only joined the Galactic Council 30 years ago. Thoric stood from his command chair. "All ships concentrate fire on their flagship. Full power. Show these humans what real weapons look like." On Earth, President Minji watched the battle unfold from the command center. Beside her, Dr. Sunmi monitored dozens of screens showing data that would look like nonsense to anyone from the Galactic Council. "The Valdran are trying to break through our dimensional shields," Dr. Sunmi said calmly. "They're using every weapon they have. Will the shields hold?" "Madam President, they could fire for a year and never scratch us. Their weapons operate on principles we moved beyond decades ago." Minji smiled. "Then let's show them what we can do." The story of how humanity got here began 30 years ago, when Earth made first contact with the Galactic Council. At that time, humanity had just developed basic faster-than-light travel. The Council welcomed them as they welcomed all new species, with condescension and low expectations. But the Council members made one critical mistake. They assumed humanity had developed technology the same way every other species had, by finding and copying the remains of ancient precursor civilizations. Every race in the galaxy used the same basic scientific principles because they had all learned from the same ancient sources. Humanity was different. When Earth's scientists saw galactic technology for the first time, they were confused. The physics didn't match what humans had discovered. The Council species used something called hyperdrive for travel. Humans used quantum tunneling. The Council species used plasma weapons. Humans had developed directed energy manipulation. The Council species used physical shields. Humans had discovered how to shift matter into other dimensions. Dr. Sunmi had been a young researcher back then. She remembered the moment she realized the truth. "We developed everything independently," she had told the research committee. "We're not more advanced than them. We're just completely different. It's like they learned to make cars and we learned to make helicopters. Both technologies work, but they work in totally different ways." Earth's leaders had made a decision that day. They would hide their true capabilities. They would let the galaxy think humans were primitive and weak. Meanwhile, Earth would study galactic technology, learn its weaknesses, and prepare. Project Prometheus was born. For 30 years, humanity built in secret. Every orbital station, every defense satellite, every warship was designed using principles the Galactic Council couldn't comprehend. Earth's scientists combined human innovation with carefully studied galactic technology, creating something unique. Back in the present battle, the Valdran dreadnoughts fired everything they had. Antimatter torpedoes, graviton beams, reality anchors that prevented faster-than-light escapes. The weapons hit Earth's defense platforms with devastating force. Nothing happened. The platforms shimmered slightly, their dimensional shields redirecting all that energy into pocket dimensions where it harmlessly dissipated. To the Valdran, it looked like magic. To humanity, it was just science. "Sir, their weapons are ineffective," Captain Jisoo reported to Admiral Daeho. "The enemy fleet is beginning to panic." "Good. Commander Wu Jin, you're clear to proceed." Wu Jin grinned. He stood in the Special Warfare Operations Center, surrounded by 300 soldiers in advanced combat suits. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were trained in something no other species had ever developed: dimensional combat. "All teams prepare for insertion," Wu Jin ordered. "Remember your training. In and out, quick and clean." The soldiers checked their equipment one final time. Their suits could shift between dimensions, allowing them to pass through solid matter. Their weapons could disrupt molecular bonds, making any armor useless. They were the ghosts that the Galactic Empire didn't know were possible. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kiwan sat in the cockpit of his fighter craft. Around him, 50 other pilots waited for the launch order. Their ships were small, barely 20 meters long. The Valdrin probably thought they were insignificant. They would learn. "All fighters, this is Control," came the voice through Kiwan's helmet. "You are cleared for launch. Show them how humans fly." Kiwan's fighter shot out of the Indomitable's hangar. The moment he cleared the ship, he activated the singularity drive. His craft vanished from normal space and reappeared 3,000 kilometers away, right in the middle of the Valdrin formation. The other fighters did the same. One moment the Valdrin fleet was surrounded by human capital ships. The next moment hundreds of small fighters were everywhere, appearing and disappearing like fireflies. "This is impossible," someone screamed on the Valdrin command channel. Kiwan armed his weapons and smiled. "Welcome to Earth's neighborhood," he fired. His weapons didn't shoot normal projectiles. Instead, they created tiny quantum distortions that passed right through the Valdrin shields as if the shields didn't exist. The distortions hit the dreadnought's hull and began breaking down the molecular structure. All across the battlefield, the same thing was happening. Human fighters phased through Valdrin defenses. Human weapons bypassed Valdrin shields. Human ships moved in ways that made the enemy's tactical computers crash, trying to calculate trajectories. Engineer Bora watched from the Indomitable's engineering deck. Her job was to coordinate all of Earth's defense systems. She had spent 5 years designing the quantum web that now held the Valdrin fleet trapped. "Increase field intensity by 20%, she ordered her team. "Let's really show them what we can do." The invisible web tightened. On the Valdrin ships, more systems began failing. Life support, gravity generators, even basic lighting started to flicker. The quantum entanglement field was literally interfering with the fundamental particles that made up their vessels. Commander Thorix realized the truth. His empire had sent 3 of its most powerful warships against what they thought was a weak enemy. But the humans weren't weak. They were something the Valdrin had never encountered, a species that developed technology along a completely different path. And right now, the different technology was tearing his fleet apart without even trying. "All ships, emergency retreat," Thorix ordered. "Get us out of here!" But when his navigation officer tried to engage the hyperdrive, nothing happened. The human quantum web was blocking it. Admiral Deho's voice came across all channels again. "Going somewhere, Commander?" "I believe we told you. Earth space is ours. You should have listened." The 3 Valdrin dreadnoughts hung in space, surrounded by human ships, their systems failing, their weapons useless, and all across the galaxy, hundreds of species watched through their long-range sensors, finally understanding the truth. Humanity had been hiding. Now they were done hiding. Commander Thorix felt rage burning in his chest. His species had ruled the stars for 3,000 years. The Valdrin Empire had crushed every enemy that dared oppose them. He would not be the first commander to surrender to primitives. "Divert all power to weapons," he screamed at his crew. "If we cannot escape, we will take these humans with us. Concentrate all firepower on their flagship." The 3 Valdrin dreadnoughts began glowing with energy. Every weapon they had powered up simultaneously. Graviton cannons that could crush a moon, planet-killer missiles that carried antimatter warheads, reality anchors that prevented any form of dimensional travel. The Valdrin were unleashing everything. On the Indomitable, alarms blared across the bridge. "Sir, the Valdrin are charging for a massive strike," Jisoo reported. "Energy readings are off the scale. They're going to hit us with everything at once." Admiral Deho remained calm. He had expected this. Pride was the Valdrin Empire's greatest strength and its greatest weakness. They would rather die than admit defeat to someone they considered inferior. "All ships, evasive pattern Omega," Deho ordered. "Fighters, screen formation. Engineering, prepare dimensional shift on my mark." The Valdrin fleet fired. Space itself seemed to tear apart as dozens of superweapons unleashed their fury. The energy release was so massive that every sensor in the solar system registered it. On Earth, people watching from below saw the flashes of light even through the atmosphere. The weapons hit their target. The Indomitable vanished in a ball of destruction that would have vaporized any normal ship. Thorix smiled in triumph. Then his smile died. The Indomitable reappeared, completely undamaged, but it wasn't in the same location. It had shifted slightly out of normal space the moment before impact, letting all that energy pass through it like light through a window. "Impossible," Thorix whispered. Deho's voice came across the channel, still calm. "You're not fighting an enemy you understand, Commander. You're fighting physics you've never encountered. Last chance. Surrender or be destroyed. Never. Valdrin, do not surrender. Then you leave me no choice. All units engage at will. The human fleet burst into action. Ships that looked small suddenly revealed their true nature. They moved with precision that seemed impossible, coordinating perfectly as if they shared one mind. Lieutenant Kiwan's fighter squadron dove into the heart of the Valdrin formation. His instruments showed him targeting data that updated faster than he could think. Earth's quantum computers didn't just calculate trajectories, they predicted them, using entangled particles to process information across time itself. Gold Squadron, deploy singularity mines, Kiwan ordered. The fighters released small devices that immediately activated. Each one created a microscopic black hole that lasted only milliseconds. But in those milliseconds, they swallowed every missile the Valdrin had fired, pulling the weapons into gravitational wells that crushed them to nothing. On the lead Valdrin dreadnought, the weapons officer stared in horror. Our missiles are vanishing. The humans are creating black holes. That's impossible, Thorix shouted. Black holes require massive stars. These are tiny ships. But impossible or not, it was happening. Engineer Bora activated the next phase of Earth's defense. From her station on the Indomitable, she controlled hundreds of satellite weapons scattered throughout the battle zone. Her fingers danced across the controls as she activated something humanity had kept secret, the Cascade Protocol. The Valdrin ships began experiencing power fluctuations. Their energy cores, which ran on standard galactic fusion technology, started resonating at dangerous frequencies. Earth's quantum manipulation was causing chain reactions in the fundamental particles that powered their vessels. Emergency shutdown of Reactor 3, someone screamed on the Valdrin command channel. Core temperature rising. We're going to explode. All across the Valdrin fleet, the same thing was happening. Ships had to shut down their weapons to prevent their own power cores from destroying them. Within minutes, the three mighty dreadnoughts were reduced to floating hulks, their weapons dark, their engines silent. But the humans weren't finished. Sergeant Hana and her team materialized inside the Valdrin flagship's bridge. One moment the bridge was empty except for the Valdrin crew. The next moment, 30 human soldiers in dimensional combat suits stood among them, weapons ready. The Valdrin guards tried to raise their weapons. Hana's team was faster. Stun blasts filled the air. Within seconds, every Valdrin on the bridge was unconscious except for Commander Thorix. How did you get in here? Thorix demanded. Our shields were still active. Hana removed her helmet. Your shields block matter in normal space. We walked in through dimensions you don't even know exist. Throughout all three Valdrin ships, the same scene played out. Human soldiers appeared in engineering sections, command centers, and weapons rooms. They moved like ghosts, appearing and disappearing, taking control of critical systems before the Valdrin could respond. The battle that the Valdrin had expected to last hours was over in 27 minutes. Captain Jisoo compiled the final reports. Admiral, all three enemy vessels are secured. 0 casualties on our side. Valdrin casualties are minimal, mostly injuries from falling when we cut their gravity. Deho nodded. This had gone exactly as planned. Dr. Sunmi's predictions about Valdrin technology weaknesses had been perfect. Commander Wujin's boarding teams had performed flawlessly. And most importantly, the galaxy had been watching. Across known space on hundreds of different worlds, the rulers and military leaders of various species stared at their sensor data in shock. The battle recordings were already spreading through the galactic networks. On the Galactic Council homeworld, Ambassador Hyunwoo stood in the central chamber as chaos erupted around him. Representatives from 70 species were all talking at once, their translators creating a deafening wall of sound. Order. The council arbiter, a being called Telsana, slammed her staff on the floor. Order in this chamber. The noise died down. Telsana looked directly at Hyunwoo. She was a Kassaran, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Her people had seen empires rise and fall for 10,000 years. Right now, her expression was unreadable. Ambassador Hyunwoo, the council demands an explanation. How does humanity possess such technology? It does not match any known galactic standards. Hyunwoo had prepared for this moment. Honorable Arbiter, humanity developed its technology independently. We did not copy precursor ruins. We did not steal ancient knowledge. We discovered the principles ourselves, following our own scientific path. That's impossible, the Valdrin representative shouted. All advanced species use the fundamental technology discovered by the ancients. There's only one way to achieve faster-than-light travel. Only one type of energy weapon that works. You're wrong, Yunwu said simply. There are many ways. You only know one because you all learned from the same source. Humanity learned from nothing but our own curiosity and determination. The chamber fell silent. The implications of what Hyunwoo was saying slowly sank in. If humans could develop completely different technology independently, what else could they do? Thelsana studied Hyunwoo for a long moment. And if the Valdrin Empire responds with their full military might? They have 500 warships. You have shown us that your fleet can defeat 3 ships. Can you defeat 500? Hyunwoo smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Would the council like to find out? Back in the Sol system, Admiral Daeho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking out at the 3 captured Valdrin dreadnoughts. Around them, Earth's fleet maintained position, still on high alert. Commander Wu Jin appeared on the screen. All enemy personnel are secured. What should we do with them? Send them home, Daeho said. But first, make sure their sensor logs are intact. I want the Valdrin Empire to see everything that happened here. I want them to understand exactly what they're facing. You think they'll come back? Daeho looked at his old friend. I think they'll have to. Their pride won't let them walk away. The Valdrin Empire has never backed down from anyone. They'll gather their forces and return. And when they do, then we'll teach them a lesson they'll never forget. Humanity is done being treated like children. It's time the galaxy learned to respect us. On Earth below, celebrations had broken out in every major city. Humanity had fought the Valdrin Empire and won. But President Minji knew this was just the beginning. The real test was still to come. Admiral Daeho stood on the bridge of the ESS Indomitable, his eyes fixed on the main display screen. 3 massive shapes had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. The sensors identified them immediately as Valdrin dreadnoughts, each one stretching over 5 kilometers in length. Their dark metal hulls bristled with weapons that could crack planets. This was the 4th time this month. They're not slowing down, sir, Captain Jisoo reported from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls, tracking the intruders. Same course as before. Straight through our space. Daeho felt his jaw tighten. For 6 months, the Valdrin Empire had been using Earth's territory as a shortcut. They never asked permission. They never responded to warnings. They simply flew through as if humanity didn't exist. Open a channel, Daeho ordered. The screen flickered and showed a Valdrin commander. The alien's 4 eyes looked at Daeho with what could only be described as boredom. His translator device crackled as he spoke. Human vessel, move aside. We are passing through. This is Admiral Daeho of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are in violation of Terran space. Turn back immediately. The Valdrin commander made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. Your protests are noted and ignored, primitive. The Valdrin Empire goes where it wishes. Your tiny fleet is irrelevant. Stand aside or be destroyed. The channel went dead. Jisoo looked at Daeho. Sir, should we scramble the fighters? Not yet. Get me President Minji. Within moments, the president's face appeared on a secure channel. Behind her, Daeho could see the emergency council chamber filled with Earth's leaders. Defense ministers, scientists, and diplomats all looked tense. Admiral, we saw the transmission, President Minji said. Her voice was calm, but Daeho knew her well enough to hear the anger underneath. Ambassador Yunwu just reported from the Galactic Council. They refused to help us. What was their excuse this time? The same. They say the Valdrin Empire is too powerful to challenge. They suggest we simply allow the transits and avoid conflict. Minji's eyes hardened. I told them what they could do with their suggestion. Daeho allowed himself a small smile. What are your orders, Madam President? We've been diplomatic. We've been patient. We've followed every protocol the Galactic Council gave us. Minji leaned forward. No more. Earth's borders are absolute. If the Valdrin won't respect our space, we'll teach them to. That means war. Then let it be war. 30 years ago, when we first met the galactic community, they treated us like children. They still do. It's time we showed them the truth. Minji looked past Daeho at something off-screen. Dr. Sunmi, you're certain about Prometheus? Another face appeared in a split screen. Dr. Sunmi looked tired but determined. She had been working on Project Prometheus for 5 years. Madam President, our technology is ready. The Valdrin Empire has no defense against it. They won't even understand what's happening until it's too late. And the rest of the galaxy? Let them watch, Dr. Sunmi said. Let them all watch and learn. President Minji nodded slowly. She looked back at Deho. Admiral, you have full authorization. Protocol Prometheus is active. Show them that humanity is not to be dismissed. The transmission ended. Deho stood silent for a moment, then turned to his crew. Sound General Quarters. This is not a drill. All ships are to move into defensive positions. Activate the grid. Throughout the solar system, things began to change. Thousands of small satellites that had been floating dormant suddenly came to life. Their surfaces glowed with a soft blue light. On Mars, Europa, and Titan, defense platforms that looked simple and outdated started humming with power. The Valdrin dreadnoughts continued forward. Completely unaware, Commander Wujin's face appeared on Deho's private screen. The head of Earth's Special Warfare Division looked pleased. It's about time. My teams are ready. Just give the word. Patience, Wujin. Let them come closer. Jisoo looked up from her station. Admiral, I'm detecting something strange. The Valdrin ships are scanning us, but their sensors keep giving them error messages. They can't get a clear reading on our defensive grid. Good. That means Dr. Sunmi's quantum shielding is working. They're looking at us with technology that's 10,000 years old. They have no idea what they're really seeing. The Valdrin fleet reached Earth's orbital space. They were now passing through the area where humanity's main defenses waited. Still, they showed no sign of slowing down. Deho opened the ship-wide communication channel. All hands, this is the Admiral. Today, Earth draws a line. Today we show the galaxy who we really are. We didn't come to the stars to bow down to empires. We came to stand as equals. Battle stations. On Earth below, billions of people watched their screens. This moment had been building for years. Every nation, every city, every person knew what was happening. The Valdrin Empire thought humanity was weak. They were about to learn the truth. The lead Valdrin dreadnought finally responded to Earth's warnings. But instead of slowing down, it charged its weapons. Massive energy cannons began to glow with deadly light. They're targeting our defense platforms, Jisoo reported. Firing solution locked. Let them shoot, Deho said quietly. The Valdrin cannons fired. Beams of superheated plasma streaked across space, each one carrying enough energy to vaporize a city. They hit Earth's defense platforms dead center. The platforms didn't explode. They didn't even shake. The plasma simply vanished, absorbed into dimensional shields that the Valdrin didn't know were possible. On the Valdrin flagship, alarms started screaming. Their sensors showed impossible readings. The human defenses shouldn't exist. The technology didn't match anything in their databases. Deho smiled. Now activate the web. Those thousands of small satellites suddenly linked together. Invisible lines of quantum entanglement spread across space like a spider's web. The Valdrin ships found themselves caught in something they couldn't see or understand. Their systems began malfunctioning. Engines stuttered. Weapons powered down randomly. Life support fluctuated. What is this? The Valdrin commander screamed across all channels. What have you done? Admiral Deho's response was broadcast not just to the Valdrin, but to every ship in the sector. To every listening post. To the Galactic Council itself, this is Earth's answer. You were warned. You chose to ignore us. Now you'll learn respect. The Indomitable and its fleet suddenly vanished from sensors. Then in an instant they reappeared surrounding the 3 Valdrin dreadnoughts. Humanity's ships were smaller, but they moved like nothing the Valdrin had ever seen. This is your final warning, Deho said, his voice cold and clear. Leave our space now or we will dismantle your ships atom by atom. Choose quickly. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so crowded. Every species with voting rights had sent their representatives. Even species that usually avoided politics had shown up. Everyone wanted to understand what had happened at Earth. Ambassador Hyunwoo stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by hundreds of alien representatives, all staring at him. He could feel the weight of their attention. Some looked curious. Some looked afraid. Many looked angry. Supreme Commander Vexron of the Valdrin Empire slammed his 6-fingered hand on his podium. He was larger than Thorix, covered in battle scars, and his 4 eyes burned with rage. This human speaks of defending their space, Vexron growled. But they attacked peaceful Valdrin vessels on routine transit. They used weapons of mass destruction. They violated every law of civilized warfare. Hyunwoo remained calm. He had dealt with bullies before. Peaceful vessels? Your ships were armed warships that ignored our borders repeatedly. We asked you to stop. We filed formal complaints. You ignored all diplomatic channels because your complaints were meaningless. Earth is insignificant. You should be honored that the Valdran Empire even acknowledges your existence. Then perhaps, Hyunwoo said quietly, you should have paid more attention to this insignificant species. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species cheered. Others shouted in outrage. Arbiter Thelsana had to use her staff 3 times before order returned. Enough. Her ancient voice carried power that silenced the room. We are not here to trade insults. We are here to address a serious matter. She looked at Hyunwoo. Ambassador, humanity has revealed technology that should not exist. The council requires an explanation. Before Hyunwoo could respond, another human entered the chamber. Dr. Sunmi walked to stand beside him carrying a data device. She had refused to wear formal diplomatic clothes. Instead, she wore her lab coat, covered in coffee stains and mathematical equations scribbled on the sleeves. I can explain, Dr. Sunmi said. I led the research team that developed our defensive technology. Thelsana gestured for her to continue. Please enlighten us. Dr. Sunmi activated her device and holographic displays filled the air above the chamber. Mathematical formulas and scientific diagrams floated everywhere. Most of the council members looked confused. When humanity first encountered the Galactic Council, Dr. Sunmi began. We were surprised to find that all of your technology was based on the same fundamental principles. You all use hyperdrive for travel. You all use plasma-based weapons. You all use graviton field shields. Because these are the correct methods, someone in the audience said. The ancients discovered the only reliable technologies for space travel and warfare. No, Dr. Sunmi said firmly. The ancients discovered one way. Humanity discovered a different way. We developed quantum tunneling instead of hyperdrive. We learned dimensional manipulation instead of graviton fields. We created particle disruption weapons instead of plasma cannons. She changed the holographic display. Your technology is like building a house with wood. Our technology is like building a house with steel. Both create houses, but they're fundamentally different. Neither is wrong. They're just different approaches to the same problems. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, an ambassador from the Koresh species spoke up. But how? Every species in the galaxy learned from precursor ruins. There are no other sources of advanced knowledge. Dr. Sunmi smiled. That's your problem. You all learned from someone else. Humanity learned from nothing but observation and experimentation. When we didn't understand something, we didn't look for ancient ruins. We built laboratories and figured it out ourselves. That should take thousands of years, Vexron protested. It took us exactly 500 years from the invention of the printing press to landing on our moon, Dr. Sunmi replied. Another 100 years to reach our outer planets. 50 more years to create artificial intelligence. We don't wait for others to teach us. We teach ourselves. In the viewing gallery above the chamber, Intelligence Director Seokjin watched the proceedings carefully. He led Earth's spy network and his agents had been monitoring galactic communications for years. What they had discovered was disturbing. When the session broke for recess, Seokjin approached Hyunwoo with a data pad. Ambassador, you need to see this. We intercepted Valdran military communications from 3 years ago. Hyunwoo read the document. His expression hardened. They were planning to invade Earth? Not immediately. But yes, eventually. The Valdran Empire has been systematically conquering younger species. Earth was on their list. They planned to wait until after their current wars, then subjugate us. And the council knew? Seokjin shook his head. No evidence of that. But several species suspected and did nothing. They were too afraid of the Valdran to intervene. When the session resumed, Hyunwoo presented the evidence. The chamber watched in silence as the intercepted communications played on the main display. Valdran military commanders discussing the eventual conquest of Earth, plans for occupation, discussions about how to exploit human resources and labor. Vexron's face turned a darker shade of purple. These are fabrications. Human lies. The encryption is Valdran military standard, Seokjin said, stepping forward. The communication nodes are from your own fleet. The timestamps are verified. This is real and you know it. Thelsana studied the evidence carefully. She had lived for 3 centuries and had learned to recognize truth. Supreme Commander, do you deny these communications are authentic? Vexron said nothing. His silence was answer enough, I see. Thelsana turned to address the full council. It appears that humanity acted in self-defense against a species that planned their eventual subjugation. The Council must consider this when making any judgment. The Council must consider nothing, Vexron roared. The Valdran Empire will not tolerate this insult. We will mobilize our full fleet and crush the humans. 500 warships will turn their planet to ash. And if you do, a new voice said, 30 species will stand with Earth. Everyone turned. Ambassador Young-ho, Earth's military attaché, had stood up in the gallery. He was younger than Hyun-woo, and where Hyun-woo was diplomatic, Young-ho was blunt. In the past 3 hours, Young-ho continued, 17 species have contacted Earth requesting defensive alliances. They're tired of the Valdran Empire threatening them. They've seen what human technology can do. They want that protection for themselves. More voices rose from the chamber. Representatives from smaller species began speaking up. Voices that had remained silent for years out of fear. The Valdran threatened our mining operations. They demanded tribute from our colonies. They executed our ambassadors for refusing their terms. Vex. Ron looked around the chamber in shock. The carefully maintained image of the Valdran Empire as protectors of galactic peace was crumbling. Species that had been too afraid to complain were suddenly finding courage. President Minji's face appeared on the main display. Transmitted from Earth, she had been listening to the entire session. Honorable Council, Minji said, her voice carrying authority that made even Vexron pause. Humanity did not come to the stars seeking war. We came seeking friendship and cooperation. But we will not be bullied. We will not be threatened, and we will not watch other species suffer under tyranny while we do nothing. Are you threatening the Valdran Empire? Vexron demanded. No, Supreme Commander. I'm offering you a choice. Minji's eyes were hard as steel. You can accept that Earth's borders are absolute and agree to never violate our space again. You can negotiate peace terms like civilized beings, or you can gather your 500 warships and attack us. You think your tricks will work against our full fleet? Minji smiled. It was not a warm smile. I think you should ask yourself one question, Commander. If 3 of your ships couldn't scratch our defenses, how confident are you that 500 ships will make a difference? The chamber fell into stunned silence. It was a bluff, but a good one. No one knew the true extent of human capabilities. The Valdran had thought 3 dreadnoughts would be overwhelming force. They had been proven wrong. Could 500 ships be enough? What if they weren't? Thelsana watched the exchange with ancient eyes. She had seen many wars in her long life. She recognized a turning point when she saw one. The Council will recess for 3 days, she announced. During this time, all parties will refrain from military action. We will reconvene to discuss Earth's formal status within the galactic community. As the session ended, Ambassador Hyun-woo noticed something. Species were approaching him not with hostility, but with curiosity, with hope. The smaller species, the ones who had lived under the shadow of empires for centuries, saw something new in humanity. They saw a species that had said no to power and made it stick. Back on Earth, President Minji met with her council. Admiral Daeho, Dr. Sunmi, Commander Woojin, and others gathered in the secure meeting room. The Valdran will come, Daeho said. Vexron's pride won't let him back down. I know, Minji replied. Dr. Sunmi, can we handle 500 ships? The scientist was quiet for a moment. Honestly? I don't know. We can handle more than 3. Maybe we can handle 50, maybe 100. But 500? She shook her head. That's beyond what we've tested. The Corvin belt stretched across space like a river of rocks and ice. The asteroid field marked the neutral zone between human territory and Valdran space. For 3 weeks it had been quiet. Now it was about to become the most watched location in the galaxy. Ships arrived from across known space. Not warships, but observers. Diplomatic vessels, news ships, science stations. 73 different species wanted to witness what everyone was calling the battle that would shape the future. They positioned themselves at a safe distance, cameras and sensors pointing at the designated combat zone. This wasn't just a battle, it was a test. Could humanity really stand against the Valdran Empire's full might? The Valdran Armada arrived first. 500 warships dropped out of hyperdrive in perfect formation. Dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, carriers, destroyers. The combined firepower could sterilize a dozen planets. They spread across the battlefield like a dark wave, blocking out the stars. On his flagship, Supreme Commander Vexron stood tall. Around him, his officers worked with grim efficiency. This fleet represented 20% of the entire Valdran military. He had argued with the High Council for permission to bring it. They had been reluctant until he reminded them what was at stake. If we lose to the humans, Vexron had told them, every species in the galaxy will think they can defy us. Our empire will crumble. We must crush Earth completely. Now, looking at his magnificent fleet, Vexron felt confident. Surely the humans couldn't stand against this much power. Then Earth's fleet arrived. 200 ships emerged from quantum tunnels, appearing instantly without the usual hyperdrive signatures. They were smaller than the Valdran vessels, sleeker, and they moved with unsettling precision. Admiral Deho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, hands clasped behind his back. Around him, his crew worked quietly. There was no fear in the air, only determination. All ships report ready, Captain Jisoo announced. Defensive grid is active. Dimensional anchors are in position. All systems green. Good. Open a channel to the Valdran flagship. Vexron's face appeared on the screen. His 4 eyes looked at Deho with contempt. Human, you are outnumbered and outgunned. I offer you one chance to surrender. Submit to Valdran authority, and your people will be allowed to live as servants of the Empire. Deho let the silence stretch for a moment. Then he spoke one word. No. Vexron's face twisted in rage. Then you will die. All ships attack formation. Show these primitives the price of defying the Valdran Empire. The Valdran fleet surged forward, weapons charging. 500 warships moved as one massive force, ready to obliterate the human defenders. Deho turned to Jisoo. Execute Battle Plan Omega. Show them everything. This time, humanity didn't hold back. The 200 human ships suddenly split into 1,000 smaller signals. Every vessel deployed swarms of fighters, drones, and autonomous weapons platforms. The battlefield filled with human craft, moving in patterns that made the Valdran computers struggle to track. Then Lieutenant Kiwan led his squadron of Singularity fighters straight into the heart of the Valdran formation. Behind him, 300 other pilots followed. They moved through space like fish through water, appearing and disappearing, their quantum drives letting them jump across the battlefield instantly. Gold Squadron, deploy cascade mines, Kiwan ordered. The fighters released hundreds of small devices. The Valdran point defense systems tried to shoot them down, but the mines phased between dimensions, passing through the defensive fire like it didn't exist. When they reached the Valdran ships, they activated. The Valdran fleet's energy weapons suddenly stopped working. The cascade mines created quantum interference fields that disrupted the flow of power through their weapon systems. Guns that had been charging went dead. Missiles that had been locked refused to launch. What is happening? Vexron screamed. Why aren't we firing? Sir, something is interfering with our power distribution. It's targeting our weapons specifically. On the Indomitable, Engineer Bora monitored the effect of the cascade mines with satisfaction. Weapon systems across the Valdran fleet are dropping to 40% efficiency. 30%, 20%. Excellent, Deho said. Phase 2. Deploy the dimensional disruptors. Throughout the human fleet, new weapons activated. They didn't fire projectiles or energy beams. Instead, they created bubbles of altered space-time. Any Valdran ship caught in these bubbles found their shields flickering in and out of existence as the dimensional frequency shifted faster than their generators could compensate. Commander Wu Jin watched from the Special Warfare Command ship as his teams prepared for boarding actions. All units prepare for insertion on my mark. He had 1,500 soldiers ready to go. Each one was equipped with dimensional transit gear and weapons that the Valdran had no defense against. Mark 15. 100 soldiers vanished from the human ships and appeared throughout the Valdran fleet. They materialized in engineering sections, on bridges, in weapons control rooms. The Valdran crews barely had time to react before stun weapons dropped them unconscious. Within 10 minutes, 50 Valdran ships had been boarded and their command crews disabled. Captain Jisoo analyzed the battle data streaming across her screens. Admiral, the Valdran are attempting a pincer maneuver. 2 wings of their fleet are trying to surround us. Let them activate the gravity wells. Hidden platforms that had been placed throughout the Corvin belt suddenly powered up. They created artificial gravity fields that pulled the Valdran ships off course. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation suddenly found themselves spinning out of control, their navigation systems unable to compensate for the rapidly shifting gravitational forces. The Valdran fleet descended into chaos. Vexron, watched in horror as his carefully planned battle turned into a disaster. His ships couldn't fire properly. Their shields were failing. Boarding teams were appearing out of nowhere. The gravity of the battlefield itself was working against them. And through it all, the human ships moved untouched, dancing between the Valdrin vessels like they knew exactly where every shot would go before it was fired. How? Vexron whispered. How are they doing this? His tactical officer had the answer, and it made everything worse. Sir, their computers are predicting our movements. They're using quantum processors that can calculate probability across multiple timelines. They know what we're going to do before we do it. It was true. Earth's quantum computers didn't just react to the battle. They predicted it, using principles of quantum mechanics that let them process information faster than the speed of light itself. Every human ship knew where every Valdrin ship would be seconds before they got there. The battle, if it could even be called that, raged for 2 hours. The Valdrin threw everything they had at the human fleet. They tried massed attacks, they tried spreading out, they tried focused fire on single targets. Nothing worked. Human shields absorbed or deflected every attack. Human weapons bypassed Valdrin defenses. Human fighters were everywhere and nowhere, impossible to pin down. Human boarding teams appeared inside ships that should have been secure. Finally, after 387 Valdrin ships had been disabled or captured, Vexron made the hardest decision of his life. All ships cease fire. We surrender. The battlefield fell silent. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in stunned disbelief. The Valdrin Empire, unconquered for 3,000 years, had been defeated by a species that had joined the galactic community only 30 years ago. Admiral Deho opened a channel to all frequencies, broadcasting to every ship watching, "This battle is over. The Valdrin have surrendered, and we accept their surrender with honor. Let this be a lesson to all who watch." Then President Minji's voice joined the transmission. She spoke not just to the Valdrin, but to the entire galaxy. "We are humanity. For millions of years we lived alone on a single planet. We developed alone, we advanced alone. And when we reached the stars, we found a galaxy that expected us to bow down to those who came before us." Her voice grew stronger. "We refused. We are not primitives. We are not servants. We are not anyone's subjects. We developed our own technology. We built our own ships, and we defended our own borders. Humanity offers friendship to all species that respect our sovereignty. We offer trade, culture, and cooperation to those who approach us as equals. We offer protection to those who seek it. But let this be known across all stars in every system on every world." Minji paused, letting her words sink in. "Earth's borders are absolute. No empire, no matter how vast, will dictate terms to humanity. Our space is ours. Our future is ours. We are done asking for respect. We have earned it." The transmission ended. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then, one by one, the observer ships began broadcasting messages to Earth. Requests for diplomatic relations, offers of trade agreements, proposals for defensive alliances. The galaxy had just watched humanity defeat the Valdrin Empire using technology nobody understood. Every species was thinking the same thing. We want to be their friends, not their enemies. On the Galactic Council homeworld, Arbiter Thelsana watched the battle recordings. After a long silence, she spoke to her aide. "Prepare a formal declaration.